7 Sinister discoveries exposed in the haunted woods, unexplained horrors that chill the spine. In the heart of a seemingly ordinary suburban neighborhood lay a dark, sprawling expanse of woods, ominous and whispering secrets. The evening sun, a feeble orange glow, barely penetrated the thick canopy above, casting twisted shadows that slithered across the ground. Claire, a 38-year-old widow, felt an unshakable sense of dread as she stood on her back porch, watching her 2 teenage daughters, Zoe and Lily, play with their friends. Their laughter was a thin veneer over an undercurrent of unease, a soft specter that clung to her heart like fog rolling. It started with the unsettling disappearance of Mr. Hawthorne, their once friendly neighbor. With his absence, the crickets chirped less, the wind began to howl almost mournfully, and Claire could feel every small creak of her home resonate through her bones. As night fell, the familiar sounds faded, leaving an eerie silence that seemed to throb in the dark. Shadows lurked in corners. Home to her newly awakened fears. Was it just her imagination, or did they seem to extend, stretching toward her like claws? Zoe had begun having nightmares. Night after night, her screams shattered the stillness, slivers of panic that made Claire's heart race. "It was just a dream, Mom." But it felt so real. Zoe would tremble, eyes wide and glassy with terror. Meanwhile, Lily had mysterious bruise marks on her arms, stories of boys luring her into hidden passages whispered behind closed doors. Panic built like a pressure cooker in Claire's chest, every day a new reason to glance nervously over her shoulder. Driven by her instinctual worry, Claire dug deeper into the rumors she had long dismissed as whimsical folklore. A chilling evening led her to the dark bowels of Mr. Hawthorne's basement, where she stumbled upon a hidden stash of missing children's flyers from decades past. Faces frozen in time stared back at her with desperate eyes, children disappeared but never forgotten. Each flyer twisted Claire's stomach deeper with dread. Some of them bore names she had once known as her neighbors. With revelations came a torrent of strange occurrences. The lights in the house flickered as if the very air had been sucked dry, and whispers crawled up her spine, making her body pulse with frozen terror. Claire's heart raced at the thought of the woods outside, thickening in the dark. Secrets writhed just beyond the garden fence. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when Claire thought she might find safety in the ordinary, an ancient curse clawed its way from the past, rooting itself in her life. The very trees seemed to conspire, warbling like the choking cries of forgotten souls yearning to tell their tale. Days dissolved into an oppressive fog, and their house became a haunting echo of the laughter that once filled it. The nearby playground, once a vibrant pool of childhood bliss, now sat in decay, overgrown and silent, a morbid reflection of the joy that had died alongside her husband. As the shadows thickened with an urgent whisper, a deep chasm of fear angled toward Claire's family. What would be unearthed from the depths of the woods? What fate awaited them if things continued to spiral? The weight of a nameless dread teetered on the brink of her realization. This darkness wasn't just threatening, it was beckoning. With the night air heavy and closing in, Claire sensed it lurking, a horrific truth, just waiting to emerge from the swirling shadows. And when it did, would there be anything left to protect? The tremor of her heart echoed the distant scream of a child in the darkness, a haunting reminder that they were not alone in the growing dread. The days dragged on, each one darker and filled with tension. Claire's sleep had become a fragile thing, slipping through her fingers like sand. The haunting cries of her daughter's nightmares intertwined with her own restless dreams, a tapestry of chaos woven with shadowy threads. Zoe and Lily barely spoke of their fears anymore, burdened with a silence so heavy it cracked the air. One evening, Claire found herself standing by the window, the glass cool against her forehead as she peered into the woods. A slight movement caught her eye. Was it just the wind, or had something shifted among the trees? She shook her head, attempting to clear the clutter of her thoughts. An inexplicable urge welled up in her to venture out, to pierce the veil of shadow, but an anchor of dread held her in place. "Mom!" Lily's voice shattered her reverie. "Come here, quick!" Claire rushed to the living room, where Zoe sat, eyes wide, clutching a tattered book. The cover was old and frayed, but the title glimmered ominously under the harsh light, Spirits of the Haunted Woods. "I found it in the attic," Zoe said, voice trembling. "It was tucked in an old trunk next to Dad's things." "What does it say?" Claire whispered, almost afraid to ask. Zoe flipped the pages, revealing sketches of grotesque figures, deformed faces with twisted expressions. Each page told a story of disappearances, of lost children and unfulfilled souls trapped in the depths of the dark. Claire could feel her stomach churn as dread pooled in the corners of the room. "Mom, listen!" Zoe read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. "This place was a site for dark rituals. The spirits here crave life. They take children who wander too far into the woods." Claire felt the floor drop beneath her. How many times had Lily vanished off to play in those very woods? "No! This can't be!" Claire snatched the book away, desperate to bury the words, returning fire to her already burdened mind. Suddenly, a harsh knock echoed through the house. Claire's heart leaped. Who could it be? In this darkening atmosphere, everyone felt like a stranger, even those they knew. Zoe and Lily exchanged frightened glances, their earlier courage crumbling like dried leaves. "Stay here," Claire said, trying to hold on to some measure of control. As she walked to the door, the knocking grew more frantic, a cacophony that rattled her bones. She opened it just a crack, peering out into an unsettling darkness. No one stood there. Only shadows loomed where familiar faces had once smiled. Unease settled like lead in her stomach. She stepped back, closing the door firmly. A shuffling sound reached her ears, coming from the kitchen. "Did you hear that?" she asked, peering towards the noise. Zoe nodded, voice trembling. "It's coming from the pantry, Mom." A chill crept through Claire as she felt ice wrap around her heart. She tiptoed towards the pantry, every step an echoing reminder of the stories swirling through her thoughts. The door creaked open slowly. Inside lay only darkness. Just as she was about to turn away, a soft whimper broke the stillness. Her breath caught in her throat. "Mommy! Help me!" It was Lily's voice. Claire lunged forward, panic igniting her movements. She frantically searched for her daughter, fear clawing up the back of her throat. "Lily! Where are you?" But the sound faded, swallowed by the shadows, leaving behind only a whisper of dread. As Claire's heart raced, she turned toward the woods outside where the night had grown deeper, swallowing the last light of dusk. What had taken her daughter? What was lurking in those trees, watching, waiting? With urgency swelling in her chest, Claire knew she had to confront the truth that lay beyond the familiar backyard. The woods were calling her family, and she needed to answer. Would she find Lily, or would the woods claim her as well? Claire's breath tore from her lungs in ragged gasps as she stepped into the suffocating darkness of the kitchen. Panic surged through her like a river, and she could feel the cold sweat trickle down her spine. The pantry door loomed before her, a gaping maw waiting to devour all light and hope. "Lily!" Her voice was sharp and laced with desperation, but nothing answered, only the dreadful silence mingled with the creaking of the old house. With trembling hands, she clutched the pantry door handle. It felt cool beneath her palm as she drew back the heavy door. The shadows seemed to stretch and writhe, eager to engulf her. She flicked on the light, revealing shelves stacked with old jars and dusty boxes, but no sign of her daughter. "Mommy! Help me!" The voice, like a light flickering in the dark, echoed again, closer now. Claire's pulse quickened. Without thinking, she stepped into the pantry, the cramped space closing in around her. "Lily!" She cried out again, her voice tightening with fear. Where was she? Claire's eyes darted over the cluttered shelves, her mind racing. Maybe Lily was hiding behind the boxes or trapped somewhere. She pressed deeper into the darkness, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Mommy!" The voice sounded like it was right beside her now, but Claire turned to see only endless shadows. With every second that passed, the urgency elongated into a tightening noose. "Lily! I'm coming!" Claire shouted, the panic crystallizing into action. But just as she reached the back of the pantry, the light flickered, darkness swallowed her whole. She cried out, her voice swallowed by the oppressive emptiness. The temperature suddenly dropped, an icy breath swirling in the confined space. A whisper fluttered at her ear. "Come play with me." All the hair on Claire's arms stood on end. She spun around, but there was nothing there, just the cold, hollow space pressing in. Biting her lip to stifle a scream, she lunged for the door. And then she froze. A faint glow flickered from behind a stack of boxes. It was pulsing, rhythmic, like the beat of a heart. The shadows danced wildly as she pushed aside the jars, each movement heavy with dread. As she approached the source, she caught a glimpse, a small, carved wooden figure, its eyes glimmering with an otherworldly light, teeth sharp and wickedly gleaming. It stood defiantly on the shelf, an angry little thing watching her. Claire stepped back in horror, her pulse racing as she recalled the sketches from Zoe's book. The plaything of lost souls, it was meant to lure children into the dark. "No, no!" she gasped, shoving the items away and stumbling backward. The cabinet rattled ominously, as a sharp creak echoed from behind her. Before she could react, the figure twisted in on itself, a terrible howl echoing from its depths. Shadows coalesced around Claire, swallowing her whole. She fought against them, but they were unyielding, spinning her deeper into the darkness where screams grew louder, blending with Lily's pleas. "Help, Mommy! Lily!" And just like that, the echo vanished. Silence enveloped her, thick and forbidding. She was alone again, standing in a world turned upside down. Taking a deep breath, Claire squeezed her eyes shut, desperation clawing at her. She felt the urge to flee, yet she could not leave without Lily. As if sensing her resolve shift, the pantry door slammed shut, plunging her into darkness. The sound reverberated against her heart. This was the tipping point. The woods outside moaned as if sharing in her despair. Beneath the noise, a chilling realization dawned on her. What if she wasn't meant to find her daughter? Gripping the panicked thought, Claire stumbled toward the door, her only chance of escape. But the second she reached for the handle, a cold laugh resonated from within those suffocating shadows. Fear washed over her anew. Would she ever find Lily? Or was this the moment she too would be lured away into the darkness like so many before? No more time to think. She had to act, but the woods were alive, and they weren't finished with her yet. Claire's heart raced in her chest, a wild drum echoing the gnawing dread enveloping her. The cold laughed, but she couldn't let it take her. Summoning every ounce of determination, she turned back to the pantry and shoved against the door, but it wouldn't budge. The hinges creaked in protest as if they were resolutely holding her captive. "Lily!" Her voice was raw, strained under the weight of sheer terror. A sudden thud reverberated from within the pantry. It sounded like something or someone was moving. Panic surged anew, flooding her veins. She pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear any sign of her daughter. Silence followed, weighing heavy, almost suffocating. With each passing second, the shadows around her seemed to twist and swell, pulsating with a dark hunger. Claire stumbled back, her back pressing against the cool, hard wall. The laughter echoed again, a string of mocking, sinister giggles weaving through the silence. "You shouldn't have come here," a voice rasped, rough like gravel. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Show yourself," she demanded, her voice trembling despite her bravado. But whatever dark presence thrived here only cackled in response, a sound that chilled her to the bone. She felt an urge to flee, but the thought of abandoning Lily sent a wave of nausea crashing over her. "Please, I can't leave without my daughter," Claire cried, feeling the edges of her sanity fray. The pantry door rattled softly as if something on the other side was pushing against it, testing her resolve. Claire edged forward again, her eyes wide with dread. If it was Lily, she hoped desperately her daughter was okay. Or no, what if it wasn't her? The thought alone made her stomach churn. Suddenly, the figure shifted, more defined now within the penumbral space. It seemed longer, taller, a dark silhouette looming just beyond the shelves. Claire's breath hitched as she peered into the darkness, an unsettling sense of knowing flooding over her despite the shadow's obscurity. Playtime's fun, the voice, now sweet and sing-songy, dripped with malice. Come join us, Claire. Forever she felt a lurch in her stomach. Get away from her. She's not yours, Claire shouted, fighting back tears as she stepped toward the voice, ready to challenge whatever evil was holding Lily. The darkness moved like a living thing, reaching, curling at her feet. Feet that were rooted to the ground, unwilling to let her escape. In a split second, the pantry light flickered back on, illuminating the chaos. Claire's eyes widened at the sight before her, a child-sized figure, cloaked in shadows, hand outstretched toward the doorway. Mommy, that familiar voice sent jolts through her heart, all doubts scattering like autumn leaves. Lily! She screamed, lunging forward, the door still a barrier between them. She pounded her fists against it, yelling her daughter's name with every ounce of strength left. But before she could reach the handle again, the figure melted back into the shadows, vanishing with an unsettling cackle. The pantry door trembled as if it were alive, the laughter fading into an oppressive silence. In horror, Claire realized something was off. A flicker of movement caught her eye beneath the floor, shapes shadowed the ground, slinking like smoke. She gasped, stepping back, heart pounding harder than before. Were those hands? Lounging like starving wolves, they emerged from the cracks, dark fingers extending toward her. She backed away, trying to maintain her balance against the wall, dread pooling in her gut. Help me, a whisper echoed, floating down from the shadows. It was Lily's voice again. But was this another trick? Claire hesitated, grappling with urgency and fear. Her decision weighed heavily on her that moment, but in the inky void of the pantry, she found herself growing cold, paralyzed by a sick combination of hope and terror. The shadows swirled closer, whispering in unison, "Join us." Claire's breaths quickened as the reality set in. This wasn't just about finding her daughter, it was a fight for her soul. Could she really escape? Could she outsmart the darkness that had taken so many before her? Against the cacophony of despair, Claire made her choice. She steeled her resolve, willing to face whatever horrors lay ahead. But just then, the shadows surged forward, and a voice rose above the chaos, sharp like glass. You want her? You'll have to pay the price. What price? The thought froze her, electrifying her senses. What had she gotten herself into? And was there still a way out? The air thickened like fog, oppressive and suffocating, suffused with an energy that twisted around Claire. The echoes of her daughter's plea hung heavy, but the darkness pressed closer, as if it meant to suffocate her trembling heart. With dread pooling in her stomach, Claire's breath quickened even more. Shadows crawled at her ankles, slick and sinuous, pulling her toward their invisible grasp. She couldn't let them take her, not without Lily. Release her! Claire cried, her voice cracking, wrung out with desperation. But the only reply was that maddening laughter, a chorus of malice echoing against the walls. It wrapped around her, binding her in fear. Suddenly, a sickening wave of realization crashed over her. The whispers weren't just fading echoes. They were drawing nearer, coiling like snakes ready to strike. Join us, they hissed, the tone dark and inviting, promising a sinister kind of peace. The pantry door quivered as something twisted behind it, and Claire's mind raced. She had to get in there, had to reach her daughter whatever it took. Regaining her footing, she launched herself against the door, jolting it violently. Let me in! The door groaned. For a heartbeat, it felt like her words had woven through the silence, summoned a response. Then an unnatural crack split the sound of shadows. The door burst open inward, splintering hinges screeching as a torrent of night poured out. The room darkened instantly, and Claire staggered back. In the chaos, glimpses of movement slipped past her, odd, disjointed limbs camouflaged against the darkness. Laughter, cold and taunting, flooded her ears. Mommy, a muffled call quivered from behind the wavering veil of shadows. Lily! Claire surged forward, each step a desperate plea, but the darkness thrashed around her, curling over her arms and twisting her thoughts. She gasped, clawing at invisible strings pulling at her limbs, slowing her progress. The cold seeped into her bones, doubt blossomed in her mind. "Come play," the sinister voice crooned, and suddenly everything shifted. The pantry morphed into a warped dimension of colors and shapes, a kaleidoscope of nightmares. "Help me, Mommy!" The voice was disembodied yet close, just out of reach. Then Claire saw it, a shadow forming into a doll. The porcelain face cracked, eyes hollow yet shimmering, and its lips curled into a wide, malicious grin. "Lily's not here, but you can have fun with us." Rage coursed through Claire, igniting a fight deep inside her gut. "No!" she screamed, fighting against the shadows clinging to her like tentacles. "Where's my daughter?" "Join us," the chorus rose, rumbling, each syllable crawling under her skin, gnashing like teeth. Claire's heart thundered. Terror twisted through her thoughts. What if both Lily and she were trapped forever, just like the others, hidden in the shadows? Mustering all her strength, Claire pushed against the dark, clawing her way forward. With every ounce of willpower, she tore through the emotional chains gripping her heart, squeezing her eyes shut against the primal dread. Suddenly, the air shifted. Light, pure and bright, sliced through the darkness, illuminating the pantry's interior. She gasped, hands shooting out to shield her eyes, but not before catching a glimpse. The dark figures froze as the light pierced them. There, at the heart of the glow, was Lily. Her face shone with innocence. Those shadowy hands clawed at her. A chaotic whirlwind of screaming darkness fought to keep her from escaping into the light. "Lily!" Claire could hardly breathe. The horror and urgency tore at her throat. But as she stretched her arms, the light flickered, and with it, everything began to unravel. The walls shuddered violently, shadows collapsing in a spiraling void. "Pay the price," the words rang loud above the chaos, a chilling ultimatum. Claire's heart sank. She couldn't process what was happening. Before she could comprehend the enormity of the offer, the light erupted in a blinding flash, tearing the air apart, and then silence fell. Claire stood gasping, her hands outstretched, straining against the emptiness. "Where are you?" she cried, voice small and hollow. Her daughter, did she lose her now? Darkness murmured, the shadows whispering, "The price is paid now, find her, if you can." A creeping dread wrapped around her as reality shifted again. The room twisted, fading, and Claire was left alone, lost amidst the tangled web of uncertainties. What awaited her in the dark? What had she unleashed? Claire stepped forward into the unknown, a chilling, gnawing thought gripping her again. Had she truly paid the price, or was this just the beginning? Claire felt the chill deepen, settling heavily around her as if it were a living thing. The air buzzed with latent energy, humming at the edge of her consciousness. Panic washed over her in waves, but as she stood alone in the void, resolute determination clawed its way to the surface. She couldn't just stand here, she had to act. "Please, Lily!" she shouted into the darkness, though the silence that followed was only more oppressive. It felt as though unseen eyes watched her every move. The voices echoed faintly, teasing her, whispering promises of dreadful pleasures, and she flinched, refusing to succumb. A flicker caught her attention, the faintest glimmer of something ahead. Claire squinted, heart racing, and moved toward it. Each step echoed as if the darkness itself resented her presence. Yet that glimmer persisted, twinkling like a distant star, urging her onward. As she neared, it transformed, a warped reflection of a silhouette, familiar yet distorted. Her heart lurched. It was Lily, but twisted and wrong. The laughter melded with the echoes of her daughter's voice, a discordant melody ringing painfully in her ears. "Mommy! Come play!" The voice was wide and tantalizing, but the figure was grotesque, limbs stretched too far, eyes glowing with malice. "No, no, you're not my daughter!" Claire shrieked, stumbling back as the apparition laughed, the sound a horrible cacophony of joy and malevolence. She covered her ears, desperate to block it out, but the whispers grew louder, insidious, wrapping around her thoughts. "Join us." Together they teased. The glimmer faded, and in its place, darkness thickened, twirling around Claire like a living creature seeking to swallow her whole. Panicking, Claire forced herself to think, to remember the light from before. The promise of escape flickered at the edge of her mind. Hadn't she seen Lily there? If she had passed the price, Surely there was still hope. Lily! Claire screamed into the shroud of shadows. I won't leave you! I will find you! And then, through sheer force of will, she remembered the warmth of the light, its clarity slicing through despair. The haze seemed to ripple, and a sliver of brightness pulsed weakly amid the dark, calling to her like a lifeline in a storm. As she reached for it, the shadows clawed back relentlessly. But Claire pushed through, forging ahead, every fiber of her being screaming. Mommy! Another cry echoed, clearer this time, trembling with urgency and fear. It was real, not the tainted mockery from before. Hope surged, and with it, the shadows recoiled, but not without a fight. Sounds morphed into guttural cries, spitting venomous threats. You will pay! Claire pressed on unfazed. The light shimmered brighter, invigorating her spirit. She felt warmth on her hands, the cool tendrils of darkness retreating at her touch, and there, no longer cloaked in shadow, she saw her daughter. Lily stood shivering, her face framed in tears, vulnerable yet so bravely defiant. Mommy? She whispered, eyes wide, the dread melting away momentarily. But then, the darkness surged again, and shrieks erupted from the void, a cacophony of rage and agony. No! Claire screamed, surging forward. Invoking every ounce of strength, she plunged into the light, reaching for Lily. But just as their hands were about to meet, claws of shadow dragged at Claire's feet, drawing her back into the void. Join us, the darkness breathed, relentless, pulling her downward, the malevolence crying out for vengeance. Grasping wildly, Claire felt one final spark of resolve ignite within her. She wouldn't surrender. Not now. Not ever. But as she strained against the shadows, another whisper slithered through her mind, heavy and foreboding. The darkness always takes a price. What will you choose? Your daughter or yourself? In that harrowing moment, Claire realized the choice before her would echo through eternity, and the gauntlet of terror lay in wait for her decision. What was she willing to sacrifice to save her little girl? A sense of dread coiling tighter around her heart, Claire braced for the unknown, the ultimate reckoning flirting with her very soul. Claire's grip slipped as the shadows pulled her deeper into the consuming dread. The echoing laughter surrounded her, a chorus of twisted joy mocking her efforts. A shiver raced down her spine, and in that moment she realized she was losing her grip not just on the light, but on the very essence of who she was. Lily! She screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. The void responded with a cacophony, a whip of violent whispers that clawed at her resolve. She could feel the shadows seeping under her skin, trying to devour her from the inside out. Then, just as the madness twisted around her mind, she felt a glimmer of warmth near her heart. It flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Could it be? Was she getting through? Mommy, please! The voice rang clear, untainted now, rising from the abyss. The darkness faltered, recoiling momentarily as if wounded. I'm coming, Lily! Claire cried, summoning every ounce of strength. She turned her focus inward, mentally scrabbling through the thick fog of horror, fueled by an undeniable love. But a new force slithered behind her, wrapping around her like an embracing serpent. The shadows hissed, their whispers turning into screams. Your sacrifice will not be in vain, they promised, silky sweet and venomous. What will you give in exchange? Staggering, Claire realized that the price was not just herself, it would touch the deepest corners of her soul. The thought made her stomach lurch. I won't betray my daughter! I'd rather face this alone. With primal rage igniting within her, she surged forward, the light responding, pushing against the darkness. It pulsed in rhythm with her pounding heart. The whispers grew shrill, stomping her resolve, but Claire was no longer afraid. The darkness twisted, revealing faces, several of them, each one an echo of despair and grief, remnants of those who had come before her, souls forever lost. Claire recognized the faces, glimpses of families torn apart, all dragging chains of sorrow behind them. Mommy! Lily's voice seeped through the noise, cutting like a blade. Lily! In that moment, she understood. This fight wasn't just for her, it was for all of them. Every face twisted in agony burst with a silent scream. They had all succumbed to this dark force. Claire shook her head, terror blending with vehement resolve. She wouldn't allow that to happen to her. "Hold on, sweetheart!" Claire shouted, channeling love with fierce intensity as she pushed against the weight of shadows. "I will find you! I will free us both!" But with her proclamation, the void surged again, and a burst of energy erupted from its depths. It pushed back like an angry tide, dark tendrils flailing and lashing out, each one seeming to snatch at her sanity and will to fight. "Mommy, help me!" The voice was strained, filled with urgency, a blend of fear and hope that tore through Claire's heart. Panic clawed violently, and a horrifying realization washed over her. The light was fading, flickering uncertainly, and with it, her connection to Lily. Claire felt the claw of despair tightening around her neck. In one last desperate act, she screamed with every fiber of her being, "Everything I am! Take it all! Just give me my daughter!" An echoing silence followed, as if the darkness paused, weighing her words. Then the shadows convulsed, swirling furiously like a storm. They surged toward her, hungry and furious. But Claire no longer stood alone. The warmth from the light wrapped around her, binding her to the hope that glimmered just ahead. If she had sacrificed herself, perhaps it was enough to break the darkness as hold. Suddenly, everything froze. Claire opened her eyes wide as the shadows vanished, revealing a fractured landscape of light and shadow. She could see Lily, clear and radiant, but the shadows pushed back fiercely. "Mommy! Will she break the grip of darkness, or will they both succumb to its insatiable hunger?" As the last question settled in the air, an ancient echo of laughter returned, familiar yet foreign, weaving through the remnants of despair. The choice loomed heavy before Claire as everything shattered around them, leaving a single thread of hope suspended in the void. What would be left of her if everything she was slipped away? The shadows writhed, retreating yet curious as the crackling light stretched toward Claire. The duality of brightness and darkness came alive, a brutal dance of hope fighting despair. She took a step forward, trembling fingers reaching out. Her heart pounded in anticipation, each beat filling her with both dread and determination. "Lily!" she shouted, desperation swamping her words. The darkness hissed, angry at her defiance, but she could no longer be afraid. The sight of her daughter, even blurred by shadows, ignited an unquenchable fire within her. But the ground beneath her feet shifted treacherously, cracking as the echo of laughter rolled around again, mocking her. Claire felt it squeeze her throat, cold fingers choking her resolve. Struggling, she pushed deeper into the light, but waves of darkness surged back, trying to envelop her whole. "Mommy!" Lily's voice trembled. Claire could see her now more clearly, a small figure trapped in an ethereal web of shadow, struggling like a moth caught in a spider's trap. Claire's heart splintered. She couldn't allow this to keep them apart. "Hold on, baby! I'm coming!" Her words flared with the intensity of a summer storm, ready to erupt with fury against the restless void. The air thickened again with the malice of ghosts twisted by despair. The choir of whispers increased, drowning her in a thick fog of overwhelming sadness. "It's too late for you, too late for her," they chanted, their voices a dissonant harmony. Suddenly, shadows lunged at her, fingers like icy daggers. The room spun, and Claire lost her balance. Desperation clawed at her mind. "No! I won't give up!" she bellowed, summoning the strength deep within her belly, tapping into the love that surged like a river through her veins. She had to break through. With each step she took, she could feel the warmth of her heart encroaching upon the icy tendrils, pushing back even as they lashed out in fury. Above her came the shrieks of lost souls trapped forever in darkness, sending shivers racing down her spine. They screeched her daughter's name, sending jagged pain through her chest. Claire screamed back, "Leave her alone!" Lily's face lit up with terror and strength, a reflection of everything Claire felt, their bond unbreakable, their hope a raging flame against the encroaching shadows. The tendrils recoiled momentarily, giving her a fleeting chance. She lunged forward until she was face to face with Lily, their eyes locking like a bridge of light. But the darkness swelled again, wrapping around them like a vice. Claire felt her strength wavering. "We have to fight, Lily!" "Together!" Lily nodded, her childlike determination igniting Claire's soul like dry kindling. Together, they reached toward each other, hands touching across the chasm filled with nothing but despair. The shadows screeched, wiping at them like rain whipping against the window, desperate to tear them apart. "Let us push, Mommy!" Lily cried, and Claire could feel her strength surging into her. In that electric moment, the warmth grew tangible, crackling around them like a firestorm. It clashed against the cold. Shadows shrieked, losing form and substance beneath the relentless tide of light. Despair turned to chaos as the light expanded outward, a brilliant blast obliterating the consuming darkness. But as the remnants of the shadows began to dissolve, a chilling realization crept back into Claire's heart. The laughter was not gone, only waiting. "Mommy!" Lily's voice trembled. "What if they come back? What if no? We won't let them. I promise." But Claire's voice faltered, fear creeping dangerously close to her resolve. As they held onto each other, the landscape twisted again. The laughter grew louder, echoing on an unrelenting loop. A vision splintered into the light, a fragment of a dark figure watching from the periphery, grinning sinisterly. It was familiar yet horrifying. Who was it watching, waiting to strike next? As the light around them flickered, Claire knew their battle was far from over. The laughter crescendoed, a cacophony that echoed through the space, drilling into Claire's skull. It morphed into a taunting symphony, a mockery of their desperate fight. She could feel every heartbeat resonate in her ears, a relentless reminder of the stakes at hand. Her daughter was still in danger. "Mommy!" Lily cried again, her voice quaking with fear that sent a cold shiver down Claire's spine. Claire's heart raced, each pulse weaving a tapestry of courage against the suffocating shadows that clung to them. "Stay close!" Claire barked, launching them forward, determined not to let the shadows steal her hope. But the darkness surged like a living entity, billowing around them, snatching at her ankles, dragging her back. It was relentless, a dark tide threatening to consume them both. What once felt like solid ground gave way to a swirling mass of chaos, a pit of despair roiling beneath them. Claire stumbled, but she refused to fall. The dark whispering grew sharper, serrated like glass. "You can't fight what is already lost," they jeered. "Stop it!" Claire screamed, pulling Lily closer, the weight of the whispers pushing down like a heavy fog. She could almost taste the bitterness of defeat in the air. But as fear threatened to swallow her whole, the flame of her love for Lily flared, illuminating her path like a lighthouse in a storm. "Channel it! Use our love!" she shouted, something deep within igniting like kindling. A flash of light burst from her, a shockwave of warmth that sent tremors through the shadows. They recoiled, hissing like serpents retreating from salt. Suddenly, the twisted figure among the shadows shifted, stepping into the light. The familiar face locked eyes with her. It was Michael, her husband. Or the husk of him, twisted into something grotesque, the shadows pulling at him like a puppet on strings of despair. The deep lines of his face sharpened in malice, the last shards of humanity buried behind a calculating grin. "Claire," he rasped, the sound crawling under her skin. "You should have stayed away. This place, it comes for you." "Michael!" Claire gasped, disbelief washing over her. "No! You have to fight it!" The shadows flickered around him, the torment warping his features, morphing him into something unrecognizable, something that should not exist in the light. Panic reignited in her chest, choking her. Could she lose him to this darkness? "Mommy!" Lily tugged at her hand, her wide eyes reflecting the horror and heartbreak. The shadows flicked towards her, whispering vile temptations, whispers that promised to take her away to a better place, where they would be free. "No! Get away!" Claire bellowed, swinging her arm and summoning another burst of light. It hit the creeping shadows, hissing them back. But for how long? Michael's voice had dropped to a whisper, sinister and calm. "You'll never escape. I can help you. Join us. Come to me. Embrace the darkness." "No!" Claire screamed, her voice shaking yet resolute. She turned back to Lily, their fingers almost breaking, suspended between light and shadow. Fight it! Stay with me! But then, the ground beneath them cracked again, widening into a chasm, a tear in reality. From it, a rift of black mist seeped, twisting upward, the essence of all-consuming darkness. There was a bridge, their tether of love threatening to snap. They had one chance. We can do this, Lily! One last push! As the chaos swirled, Claire drew upon every ounce of their bond, willing it to materialize as one final surge. Together, they focused all their energy, projecting love against the approaching tide. But as the shadows thrashed, slashing at the light, Claire noticed Michael moving closer, eyes glistening with a malevolent joy. The rift writhed behind him, eager to pull everything they loved into its abyss. And then, suddenly, a new voice emerged from the dark, a low rumble, commanding and sadistic. Together? You really think you can beat me? Her heart pounded, dread pooling in her stomach. Who was this new threat? As the rift gaped wider, the shadows shifted and danced like flames in a breeze. Claire could only scream, Lily, brace yourself! What was coming next? Would they stand a chance against this unknown terror? Claire's heart pounded like a war drum as she edged closer to the darkness surrounding them. The shadows twisted and lurched, taunting her with monstrous promises. She had to keep moving, keep fighting. For Lily. Mommy! Lily's voice sliced through the chaos, pulling Claire back from the brink of despair. The bond they shared was their strongest weapon. She could see Lily's shaken resolve, matching Claire's own, and with that flicker of hope, they would not surrender. Believe in us! Claire shouted, taking a step forward, courage rising from the depths of her love for her daughter. The air crackled with energy, swirling chaos shifting with her will. We can do this together. Let us show them. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from their clasped hands, cutting through the encroaching dread. It sliced through the shadows, forcing them back like a tide receding before the dawn. The air shimmered, hope swirling like golden embers, encouraging Claire onward. She felt the pulse of light in her veins, overwhelming the dark whispers that craved despair. Michael's twisted silhouette lurked nearby, eyes glistening with a withheld anguish. Join me, Claire. You can turn back now, we can be a family again, his voice echoed, the temptation thickening the air. Michael, I will always love you! Claire cried, her heart splintering at the sight of the twisted remains of her husband. But I won't let this darkness take my daughter or us. Fight it! Lily chimed in, shaking her head defiantly, the unbreakable bond shining through. With each determined pulse of light that radiated from them, they pushed against the veil of shadow that wrapped around Michael like chains, trying to ensnare her heart. No! Claire yelled, channeling everything she felt, love, pain, terror, forming a blinding lasso of light that surged forward. Leave my family alone! She cast the light directly at the dark figure before them. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if they had been burned. No! You can't! Michael wailed, agony cracking through the malice etched on his face. The darkness writhed, but the light pushed it back, a shield protecting them, a bridge forming between hope and despair. Lily, hold on tight! Claire barked, taking another step forward. Something shifted in the darkness. A howl of fury erupted, threatening to pull them under once again. Mommy! Lily clutched Claire's hand tighter, determination glimmering in her eyes. Claire brought her free hand to her heart, feeling it thud steady and strong within her. We're stronger than this. She could feel the light roaring fiercely now, compelling her forward as they moved to confront the grotesque figure of Michael, chained to darkness yet familiar enough to make her heart ache. As they drew closer, Claire felt her heart pang. I believe in you, Michael. I remember you. Who you were before the shadows came. Each word poured from her soul like an invocation, connecting them despite the unseen chains binding him. The shadows lurched violently as if caught by hurricane winds. Claire's voice radiated light, illuminating their surroundings. The very ground trembled beneath them, and she could see the confusion flicker through Michael's twisted visage. No, stop! You have to choose. His voice came weak, trembling against the chaotic clamor. Your daughter or me? With every ounce of strength, Claire shouted, I choose both. We will fight together. You can break free, Michael. The words rang out, reverberating against the walls of darkness, causing Michael to falter momentarily. Stop this! He screamed, confusion racking him as if battling himself. The shadows clutched at him, but the light surged higher, wrapping around him, tugging at the lost remnants of who he had been. Then it happened. A glitch in time, a moment of clarity, a flicker of the warmth Claire remembered dancing in his laughter, of the joy he had brought into their lives. It clashed fiercely against the darkness that sought to consume him. Lily! Claire shouted, recognizing the power surging through her daughter alongside her. Now! Together! With a united cry, they reached deep into the core of their unbreakable love. The light exploded, radiating like the sun bursting forth after a storm, enveloping them both and tearing at the shadows. As the warmth illuminated all corners of the chaos, the shadows shrieked, recoiling violently in streams of darkness, losing form and substance. I'm sorry! Michael's voice broke through the tumult, moments before the last remnants of dark dissipated around Claire and Lily. Come on! Come back! Claire screamed, holding out her hand as the darkness began to thin, revealing a familiar glimmer amid the chaos. And then, as light flooded every crevice, something within that chaos shifted entirely. Claire's heart soared. Michael stepped from the shadows, eyes wide and clear, stripped of the malevolence the woods had created. Claire, he breathed, remembering. Together, my love! Claire cried, a whirlwind of hope spinning around them, as she wrapped her arms around Michael, drawing him and Lily close. We can find our way back. For a moment they stood, eclipsed by light beyond any shadow could reach. Fear melted away, revealing clarity, togetherness, family. Yet the woods still whispered, the shadows still lurked, but their voices faded into the background of light. As the warmth wrapped around them, they felt the forest's rage dampen, the air lightening from a tangible weight. They had fought the darkness that haunted their hearts and won. Let us go home, Claire whispered, eyes glistening with relief and determination. Hand in hand, they stepped forward, leaving the haunted woods behind, knowing the bond of their love would always be their greatest strength. But as they took a breath of fresh air, the shadows slinking back into the depths, laughter echoed faintly from the woods. It wasn't over, not yet. Whatever lurked would always be waiting, but they wouldn't be afraid. They had each other. And in that moment, they were free. Don't forget to keep supporting the channel by subscribing immediately. You need to subscribe now to catch the next thrilling adventures. Smash the like button now, so we can reach more fans like you. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories on this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be part of this journey. Thank you for being a part of our community. Let us keep the stories alive together.